Hello and welcome to the Talk Villa podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul, and in this episode we're looking back at Aston Villa's 4-1 defeat at Arsenal on Tuesday night. Things started well. I thought there were encouraging signs in the first half, which we'll discuss in more depth shortly, and we were very much in the contest at the break. But a nightmare start to the second half saw those hopes quickly disappear, and our 11-game winning streak sadly came to an abrupt end. As with every game, I'll be discussing my 5 key talking points as we have a deeper dive into the loss to Arsenal. But first, let's have a listen to the boss, Unai Emery, and his thoughts on the game as he spoke to Villa TV.
Good evening. So proud of everything we are doing. So proud with the players, how we achieved it until now, 39 points, and how we are being ambitious and as well realistic, and we are realizing every match we are playing how we can exploit our potential and how we can get and set our target. Each match, today we lost. We did fantastic first half. The second half we conceded 1 goal. We got injured with Onana, and of course in the middle we had some not the structure we need to keep strongly in the middle, but we compete fantastic, and we conceded the second half, the second goal, and then was more difficult. We didn't give up. We were as well trying to score goal. We did 1 goal, one or two chances to score another one, and the debuts of some players like Jamal and George is really fantastic as well. And keep going. And we are third in the league, the day 19. Of course, I don't understand why we are playing the day 19 against one team we played the first half of the season, but we are going to play against Nottingham the second part of the season 2 times, and we are going to play on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Keep the same mentality we have, and until now, very proud, everything we are doing with our supporters, they were here with us. We tried today to compete, we tried today to try to be consistent against the better team in the league, but after the first half, how we played fantastic. The second half, we lost something, and they used those moments to beat us.
That was Unai Emery speaking to Villa TV after our 4-1 defeat to Arsenal. So on to my 5 key talking points then, and let's start with arguably the biggest turning point in the game, which was Amadou Onana being forced off at half-time due to injury. Now, we were already without Boubacar Kamara due to suspension, which was a massive blow. I thought Villa were excellent in the first half. I thought we were disciplined and organised defensively, and we were able to control the tempo for the most part, which stifled Arsenal's rhythm and threat. We also looked a bit of a threat ourselves on the counter-attack. We were wasteful in the final third, and had we been more clinical in the early stages, I think the first half and the entire game could have looked a lot different. Obviously, we didn't take those chances, so it's all well and good saying that in hindsight. But I thought Amadou Onana picking up his injury and having to be replaced at the break was a critical turning point. He was hugely important in terms of having that presence in midfield. He was offering protection and a shield in front of the back line. He was retaining possession really well, and I thought he was also showing a really positive ability to break forward on the counter-attack and lead those charges up the pitch. However, once he came off, and obviously again, as I say, with no Kamara in the team either, we were left really exposed and allowed far too much space in central areas, and Arsenal took full control of that. They exploited that ruthlessly, and they went on to run away with the game. Now, injuries are part of the game, so it's not an excuse, but I don't think there's any denying the impact that had on us. We hope that that's not a serious setback for Onana that will keep him sidelined for an extended period of time. Because, as I say, he was impressive in this first half, but he's also been impressive and on a good run of form now for a number of weeks. So losing him, massive blow, and I think that really impacted how the second half then went on to play out. On to the second point, and that is Emi Martinez having to command his box better. Now, credit to him for his ability to produce decisive saves that have a positive impact on the outcome of games. We've seen how important he can be for us, and he is a top-class goalkeeper. But I think there was an equally as important moment in the game was the first goal, because I thought that swung the momentum firmly in Arsenal's favour. They started to play with more freedom and confidence, and after a sort of nervous sense in the stadium in the first half, I thought that rallied their supporters and they got behind them and they just overran us completely. Just as we saw at Chelsea last weekend, and I think it was Leeds away as well, Martinez has to do better in commanding his box and clearing the threat. Now, we can argue that there were fouls in the build-up to those situations, but ultimately, even with a VAR review, a free kick wasn't given in either of those scenarios. I'm talking about the Chelsea and Arsenal games, the most recent ones. And so instead, he's being caught out wrestling with the opposing players near his goal line, and he's not successfully getting to the ball to collect it and wipe out that danger. Now, it's not going to come as any surprise, I don't think, that that's going to be an area that teams are going to target us now, unless we can start to deal with that more efficiently. And I think that was such a critical moment in the game which sparked our downfall. As I say, I thought we were controlling tempo, we were keeping the crowd quiet, and we were dealing with Arsenal's threat really well in the first half. But as soon as that first goal goes in, the game completely changes, and I think Martinez has to do better in dealing with that threat in and around his goal line. The third point is our missed early chances and how our mistakes were ruthlessly punished. Now, those chances came and went in the first half, and I had a really horrible feeling brewing that once they were being missed, we were squandering our best opening to keep our winning run going. I think you combine that with the individual errors that we saw practically in all 4 of Arsenal's goals, I think. Now, credit to them, by the way. They were clinical in pouncing on those mistakes, and they cashed in to show why they're top of the table. They're a top team. But I think Villa were given a harsh lesson in that if you're not at it against the very, very top teams, you will be punished. Again, we can look back and say our absentee list was a massive difference in the game, and particularly with Onana coming off at half-time. But Emery's going to use this experience now to help improve us in the future. But I think it's an all too familiar story in football that if you're not clinical at both ends of the pitch, you leave yourself open to being made to pay for it. As I say, the missed chances in the first half early on, I think it was Watkins had one when he was played in by Konza. You had other openings where we just didn't make the most of them. And then you count mistakes, whether it was Andres Garcia losing a 50-50 in the build-up to one of the goals, Luka Dean being caught out dallying on the ball in our own box, the Martinez one for the first goal. Just too many mistakes, too many missing players, and we got punished by the better team who deservedly won. The fourth point is a more positive one. We saw Jimoh-Aloba and George Hemmings make their Premier League debuts. Now, particularly the latter, I think that was a really, really positive thing to see him come on and make his Premier League debut. It was obviously in a very difficult situation, but it was a slight mood lifter for me because we've got some excellent young talent coming through. Most of us may have watched Hemmings in pre-season and at youth level, and it's hoped that this is the start of a really promising journey for him in the senior squad. He's got real potential, there's no denying that, and he'll gain valuable experience from moments like this, which will be key to his development. Even though the game was gone, it was a difficult game on the road in a loss at Arsenal, but hopefully that's the first appearance of many for him in the coming months, because I do feel as though he has the ability and the potential to become a top player. So good to see him get on, and good to see Jimoh-Aloba as well, and hopefully those guys will get more playing time as the season progresses. Now, the fifth and final point is that our winning run has come to an end, and it's now time to reset and regroup. It did come to an abrupt end, but I feel as though it's important now that we get key individuals back from suspension and injury, and the focus has to be on resetting, regrouping, and putting together a fresh run of wins. Cash and Kamara will return against Forest this weekend, and it's hoped that Pau Torres isn't too far behind. We've got Mings and Barkley to come back in the second half of the campaign too, and I think they will have important roles to play. And we'll obviously wait to see what reinforcements arrive next month, with Villa being linked with new signings and Emery opening the door for new faces to arrive as well. I do feel as though we're in a good place at the halfway point in the season. We've got a 9-point cushion over Chelsea and Manchester United, who both couldn't capitalise and win. They both were held to draws on Tuesday night. So I do feel as though we're in a strong position in terms of our actual objective this season, which was qualifying for the Champions League. And our recovery has been remarkable, given how woeful our start to the year was. Perhaps the talk of being title contenders can now go away. We can go back to ticking along under the radar, but I think the most important thing is that we make this a minor setback and we don't allow it to become the start of a blip. It's imperative that we produce a positive reaction this weekend against Forest, bounce back immediately and get our confidence back up and get back on the winning track. It was an unbelievable ride. We started it at Villa Park against Maccabi Tel Aviv on November 6th, and we went on to win 11 games all the way through to December 30th. We had wins against Arsenal, Manchester United and Chelsea, which stood out amongst others. and it was an excellent run of form. So what were your talking points from our defeat to Arsenal, and how would you rate our first half of the season out of 10? If you're listening on YouTube, leave your comments below, and for those listening to the pod via Apple Podcasts, Spotify or other means, head over to talkvilla.substack.com and get involved in the conversation over there. That's a wrap on this episode of the Talk Villa podcast. A big thank you for taking the time to have a listen to this pod and to previous episodes. Please subscribe to the pod or channel depending on where you're listening. That's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. Give the episode a like or leave a review if you've enjoyed it, or leave a comment. Sign up to the Talk Villa Plus newsletter on Substack for ad-free Villa news, opinions and analysis delivered directly to you. And there's also an option of a paid subscription for bonus content. All the details will be in the description of this podcast, but for more, please go to talkvilla.substack.com and subscribe. So that is unfortunately the end of our winning run, but we haven't got long to wait for an opportunity to bounce back and get back on track, with Nottingham Forest heading to Villa Park on Saturday for the early lunchtime kickoff. I think that is probably the most ideal scenario that we could have got. You're kind of disappointed, you're frustrated after losing. It's a feeling we're not used to in recent weeks. So to get that opportunity to not sit around and mope and sort of dwell on the loss, we can bounce back, or we've got an opportunity to bounce back immediately. That's a good thing for us, I think. And so, as I said earlier, the reaction and the response will be crucial now as we look to get back to winning ways immediately and not let this result derail us for an extended period. I think that's absolutely vital. I'll be back on Saturday with analysis of the Forest game, hopefully with 3 points in the bag. But until then, up the Villa.